Hi, hello, welcome to Fat Mascara, everyone. I'm Jenn.
Hi.
He's Garrett.
I'm Garrett.
Hi, guys. It's a podcast about beauty culture with a tagline TBD, and sometimes we read reviews. Oh, I meant to read reviews with you, and then I didn't even look them up.
Oh, no. I love the tagline TBD.
Should we just go with that all year long?
I think that's it.
Okay. We're so big we don't even need a tagline. Is that what you're trying to say? But we do love when people leave us reviews. And so someone just did that on Apple today. So I'm going to read it. And if you leave us a review on Apple or Spotify, we can read that. Oh, okay. We're reading this live, so let's hope it's a good one. But it's titled My New Favorite Podcast. As a founder of a food brand, I'm passionate about crafting products that nourish and delight. But beauty and skincare isn't a world I'm deeply immersed in. That's why I love Fat Mascara. The hosts break down the space in such a relatable, intelligent, and often hilarious way that someone like me who isn't knee-deep in the industry can feel inspired and connected. Okay, Dana.
That's a great compliment.
Dana, thank you.
I feel like that's the goal for all, as beauty editors too, like, as you know, especially I feel like that's the whole goal, right? Is to kind of translate for people that aren't necessarily as immersed in it as we are.
Yeah. And it's funny because this podcast, I've always straddled the line of like, am I over explaining? Because there are beauty enthusiasts and obsessives that are listeners and people in the industry, frankly, and like C-suite level beauty executives that know what I'm talking about. But then I know there's people that are new to beauty or early in their career and don't know all the lingo and everything. So if I'm ever getting pedantic and like, yeah, girl, we know what product development is. Garrett, you tell me, first of all, but listeners tell me.
But I also feel like that's what I love about beauty is that everyone can interact with it no matter how much they know about the space, right?
Yeah, it's so much less intimidating. Like, say you were to get into like wine or something, or cooking even, sometimes I feel like can be so intimidating for a lot of people. So I hope beauty isn't. That's kind of what we aim to do, right?
Totally.
How you doing, Garrett?
I'm good. I'm feeling a little congested, so if I sound a little crazy, let me know. I'm hoping that my hoarse throat sounds more sexy than
it's a gravelly grumble. It's barely anything. I can deal with it if everybody else can.
But we're in that time of year here in New York. It's like flurrying outside.
Yeah, it just started snowing, guys. I think this is the first snow of the season here in New York City. So happy holidays.
It's very seasonal.
It's festive time. It's party time.
You know, I wanted to talk to you about what I did last night.
What did you do last night, Garrett? We'll get into the beauty. Don't worry. It's all related.
I know I don't want this to turn into like a Broadway podcast since you are not a big Broadway fan, and I don't know if many of our listeners are either. But I'm a big theater nerd. I'm a former theater kid. Not only do I have Wicked fever right now, but I went to see Death Becomes Her, the new musical on Broadway last night.
Oh, okay.
And it's really good. It's really funny. It's campy. It's over the top. They've kind of updated it for a current time. It's not all 80s like the movie. I mean, the movie is iconic, right? And we've talked about it before on the podcast. But it really got me thinking not just about that show specifically, but also you and Julie have been talking about Sunset Boulevard. There's something happening on Broadway, like particularly, but I think also in the greater culture. There's so many shows on Broadway right now that are about women and aging.
Oh, yeah, Sunset Boulevard, Death Becomes Her.
There's a new version of Gypsy coming out, which is the iconic show about Gypsy Rose Lee. Like, her mother is like the ultimate stage mom, and it's all about how she is kind of pushing her daughter into this show business because she never could make it herself, and she's dealing with this kind of idea of like, I'm too old to be a star anymore, so I'm going to make my daughter do it. But anyway, it just really got me thinking about, because like Death Becomes Her really leans into the camp, the comedy of it all.
I know the movie, so is the plot of the musical the same?
Basically.
Okay.
I mean, it's the same characters. They've kind of made it into, like, I have to say, I think the script of the musical is much sharper and funnier than the movie itself, because it talks a lot, you know, there's songs, there's a lot of comedy coming from this idea of like, these beautiful women will do anything to be beautiful, right? But they're already beautiful. It's like, it's just really interesting, and the way that they do it is really funny and kind of skewers the whole idea But I was like thinking about it juxtaposed with what you've been saying about, Sunset Boulevard. It's like,
Yes.
that's like high drama. This woman is like really dealing with the fact that she's like lost her beauty, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the flip side of it is the comedy version. And I was thinking back to our talk about The Substance. And I was like, wow, there's really something happening right now.
The body horror of it all. Well, that's The Substance. This is more just like, yeah. And actually, when we get into the news, the first item we're talking about like ties into this. Now that the ability to sort of pause aging is kind of here, at least appearance-wise, somewhat with money, we're all talking about and struggling with, do we partake?
Mm-hmm.
And what does it mean to get older and feel less relevant? And if you look younger, do you feel more relevant?
Right.
Yeah. I don't think it's just because I think we could say middle age.
Well, I
don't know.
I did just have a birthday too. And I'm
was
officially
it a middle-aged
now.
birth?
Yes. Official. Textbook.
And I'm like, okay, sure, because maybe it's my purview because I am that age. But I know we have listeners that are teenagers and in their young 20s, and they too are talking about this. So it's like not just for the people who have hit what you would call the aging moment. I think it's everybody. Yeah. Actually, should we just get into the news and talk about this?
Yeah, let's do it, because that actually is a really good segue into our first news item.
Thank you. I planned that. All right, let's get into it. It's time for the news. P.S. Everyone, if the beginning of this podcast sounds slightly different, Garrett and I were so excited to start talking, I forgot to hit record in our studio equipment. Luckily, we both do backups, so the first couple minutes of the podcast were our backup. But I think I should. Enrique's a genius. It'll probably sound fine. So I don't even know why I'm saying that. But to get into this deeper discussion that we wanted to have, and it goes to Broadway, like you were saying, what is good plastic surgery work now? What is the good cosmetic work now? What is the right, quote unquote, way to be doing this thing, which is pausing the appearance of aging? And so there's what you said already in the ether, if you will. Mm-hmm. And then these two stories that Garrett and I have been like texting about all week. First of all, Lindsay Lohan's new face.
I am so consumed by this face. I mean, and also now Donatella has debuted a new look.
Yes.
Versace. And it's almost like she went to the same doctor as Lindsay Lohan because they both look absolutely incredible.
Yes. Usually Jess and I try and like shy away from guess the work. Who's the doctor? What did she do? But something shifted this year in 2024 where like, clearly I got something done. Like Lindsay Lohan's not going to be out here being like, but then Ariana Grande is trying to do the Vanity Fair lie detector test and tell people she never got any plastic surgery when like most people think she's gotten a nose job. I don't care what people do, but I do think we're at this point where it's like, yeah, just do it and come with your new face and let's see it.
I think the reason that we're so obsessed with Lindsay's particularly is that it's usually when you see someone get plastic surgery, you can tell there's a progression in their before and after pictures. Right. But hers look flipped. Because if you look at her in like 2017, 2018, she looks like she's had plastic surgery or had done something to her face. Now she looks like she did in 2010 or whatever, when she was in 2003, when she was in Mean Girls. She looks incredible, like she's had no work done, which I think is why people are so obsessed. And that there's been so many stories about plastic surgeons trying to guess what she's done, and they're all like, we don't know, we can't tell, which I think that's the new part, is people can't tell, which is so fascinating to me.
Yeah, and it's not like she just probably had one thing done. I'm working on the story for The Cut, like the urine treatments, and a lot of the doctors were talking about, I can do so many tiny things that there's never a before and after photo. It's just you're sort of stopping aging at a certain point. So different with Lindsay, like you said, because she did look a certain way and now looks, and same with Donatella, looks like 20 years younger.
Totally.
So she was in this holiday movie I texted you about the movie. It's like Our Little Secret or something. I don't know. I have such a soft spot for Lindsay Lohan, her acting in general.
Me too.
Any project she's in, even if it's campy Hallmark movie, even if it's bad script, it's like, well, she's going to bring it and nail it.
Totally.
Just like not over the top, just natural acting. You want to be best friends with her. But she's in this show with Kristen Chenoweth. Oh, we're bringing it back to Broadway.
Love. Obsessed.
And there's like a running joke through the movie that Kristen Chenoweth's, like the mom character that she plays, doesn't age. And so we're all like, ha, 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 because she looks the same in the photos. Very Death Becomes Her. But as I was watching the show with the men too, this movie, I kept thinking to myself, there's two generations here. It was very much the holiday drama, comedy, rom-com, where there's like the parent generation and then the younger generation and they're meeting, et cetera. So you want to assume there's probably 25 to 40 years difference between these two generations. When they were all in the room together, Eric, my husband, was like looking at it and he was like, I'm sorry, who's the mom? Who's the dad? Like, they all just kind of look the same age. Like, you go out in the world right now, I have no idea what people's ages are. Like, if you were between 20 and 50, maybe even 55, 25 and 55, it's like everybody looks the same. Here in New York City, obviously.
Yeah, but I think we've also talked about it before. Like, what does a 40-year-old look like? What does a 50-year-old look like? What does a 60-year-old look like? I mean, it's really hard to tell now. Yeah, I think you hit it. It's all about small changes over time versus one big change, right? Whereas before, it was like, you're going to get a facelift. And now it's like, maybe you'll get a few different things over the course of several years versus one thing at one time, which drastically changes the way you look, probably for the better or, you know, whatever. But it's like, I mean, with Lindsay particularly, I think it's about also what she took out of her face versus what she did to it.
Right. In fact, this is scuttlebutt that I heard. I'm not going to say who told me, but filler sales are down at a particular company that they're doing great with neuromodulators, but this company sells hyaluronic acid fillers, and this year sales were not great. And I think it's because some people are like, oh, right, there's other ways to rejuvenate a face that might be more natural looking. However, Garrett, this makes my job really hard because all the people want to know, what's the thing, the one thing I do? Do X, look Y. Right. And now you can't really say, because when you look at these people and you're like, I want to age like them, or I want this glow, or I want whatever it is, I can't, and experts can't guarantee you this is the procedure that will do it, or this is the device, or this is the skin cream.
Totally. Which I think is an interesting thing because everyone wants that silver bullet, that one thing that's going to change everything. But I think, and for a while there was stuff like that, right? There was like, yo, just get a facelift or get filler or do this to your cheeks or your lips or whatever. But now it's not about that. And it's kind of like being on a diet, right? You're not going to diet for one day, 1 week.
Oh, that's no fun. Lead a healthy lifestyle? No. What are you telling me? To sleep well and eat nutritiously? Boring.
But I think it's kind of true. I also think that it's like the treatments themselves have changed. Like I did a story a while back about male facelifts. This was more about men versus women and how you have to treat men's faces differently than women's faces in order to make it look natural. But it was also, I learned a lot about the new technology in how they do facelifts, right? So I think it also has to do with the way that these treatments are done, period. And it was really interesting to me how now I'm like, okay, did she get a facelift? She might have. I mean, Donatella definitely did, but it's a different kind of facelift in general. You're not looking at that stretched horizontal thing. It's more done vertically.
Yeah, not to get too graphic, but I was just talking to a surgeon about this, and it's not just the skin that is moving now in a way. I mean, clearly there were other types of facelifts before, and I feel like that's a whole spinoff podcast. But yeah.
Totally. It's all the muscle. They realign the muscles. It's very interesting. And also, I think people are getting them done younger now. I was talking to our friends. You and I was behind you by a day when I went up to LM Medical to talk to our friends Morgan and Leslie.
Guys, I went to this, talked to the surgeon and dermatologist, and I walked in and all they wanted to do was talk about Garrett. They were like, Garrett's coming tomorrow. And I was like, okay, well, I'm here right now. Let's talk. And they just love you so much. And I was like, he is an excellent reporter. But so you went up there and you were talking to the doctors, Rayback.
I was talking to Leslie.
Morgan Rayback, yeah.
Yeah, Leslie, who's the plastic. She only does facial.
Right.
And I was asking, I was like, what are you seeing? What's going on? Because they just opened up their Upper East Side practice. And she confirmed that younger people are starting to come in asking for facelifts, like in their early 40s versus early 50s. And I was like, okay, so that makes sense because it's like, I mean, I was also like, can I get a facelift? Come on. Like,
Garrett will always be our Fat Mascara guinea pig. I just want everybody to know that we
truly
appreciate you for your service.
I will. There's very, very few things I will not try, but I was like, it makes sense in my mind because if you're doing a facelift when you're on the younger side, you have to lift less, right?
Yeah.
So you're not as it's again, these smaller changes over time versus one big change at once.
Yes, for the subtle look. But to wrap up this conversation, another story that came to our purview this week that I want to talk about is, well, first of all, this was a Daily Mail, and you got to love a Daily Mail headline. This was about the rise of the Mar-a-Lago face, which is, they had photos of a lot of people that are in President-elect Trump's circle, the politicians, like publicists, the people that just he surrounds himself with, and they have this aesthetic that is, frankly, clearly adjusted with some sort of cosmetic work. And this writer, I saw it on Twitter, and someone said, well, some Daily Mail writer woke up and chose violence. Because they throw a headline on it like this, like the rise of the Mar-a-Lago face. And it's basically is shaming or calling out people for getting plastic surgery, which I don't love because I'm like, yeah, they have a look, but like they're also politicians. So it's like, why are we picking apart their appearance? But did you read that story?
I did. There were some interesting things that I thought were very curious about that story.
Tell me.
Well, I agree that there's a distinct look for a lot of people in that circle, right? And including men and women.
It was like Matt Getz, Kimberly Guilfoyle. You can go read the story if you want. I'm not going to detail it.
Yeah, I actually wrote a thing for Esquire about Matt Gaetz when he was at the RNC. And what's interesting to me is like it's a direct kind of opposite of what we were just talking about, this undetectable look, which is what most people say is happening in the industry, right?
Right.
It's the opposite of that. Like, these people are very obviously doing things, and it's a very overfilled, very shiny, very tight appearance. And what I thought was so interesting about that story particularly was like, I'm not shaming them for what they're doing. I think if that's how you want to look, that's how you want to look.
Yeah.
But people were like, they're obviously doing it to please one person, right? President-elect Trump.
Oh,
because they
like
want to be part of this inner circle.
Do you think it's that? Like, people don't change their appearance just so they can. What am I talking about? Of course they do to get a job. Yeah.
But what's so funny is that in that same story, someone else was like, but he notoriously hates plastic surgery.
So
which
it's
I thought was very
Does everybody
odd.
know that this look is cosmetically augmented? Like, it is plastic surgery. I'm lumping it all together. Maybe they got filler, Botox, whatever, but I'm just going to call it plastic surgery. A lot of lashes, by the way, a lot of lash extensions. And there was the person quoted in the story who was like, no, this is okay to look like you got work done.
Well, they had a very interesting point. I don't remember who it was. It was one of the surgeons, I think, said for a lot of people, it's a sign of wealth because it used to be that, like, if you were rich, you had, like, a designer bag or you had a fancy car. Now, he was saying that if you're rich, you look like you have had work done because you can afford it. It's a Real Housewives kind of thing, right? Which I don't agree with because all the rich people that I know, like the super rich people, don't want to look like they've had work done.
It's the quiet luxury versus the luxury. It's the same aesthetic. It's are you getting Kate and the Row brand? Or are you getting Gucci and Versace with logos everywhere?
Well, I think that's what's so interesting about this idea of this Republican inner circle who want to kind of have these trappings of wealth, whether they are real or not.
There's something more honest about it in a way. It's almost like, yeah, we all know how politics are. We all know it. At least they're looking like it, like they're not hiding it, where there's something I think people, I wrote about this for Elle years ago.
You
like
did.
People don't want a politician to seem dishonest. And there's something about really good cosmetic surgery work that feels dishonest because you're trying to pull one over on me. Whereas if you put on huge lash extensions and get your lips filled, we all know what happened here. So I don't feel like you're lying to me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I do. But I also think the only way that good cosmetic procedures are like lying is if you lie about them. Right?
Yes.
Like if someone was like, "Oh, I haven't had anything," like we all know the celebrities that have claimed that they've
You're
had
right. And the ones
done,
with
right?
the really good Undetectable are also the ones who continue to say, I got nothing done.
Right.
Yeah. I want to be the one, let's us be the one who gets really good work, but then tells everybody how much work went into like this barely detectable work.
Oh my God, I would shout it from the rooftops.
I do. I mean, I tell
would be
everybody
crediting my surgeons. I would be like, and I will say, I don't think that Lindsay has been completely forthcoming yet, but she has posted pictures with like her cosmetic derm in Dubai.
Lucia Clinic or Lucia, I'm not sure how to say it, but yeah, which is what everybody's assuming where she went to get this work from this clinic.
Right. Although I have heard rumblings that there's been some other people like in LA that have worked on her too.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's one person. I mean, I think that's the other thing too, is like you go to people who are really good at certain procedures, right? Like you go to like the facelift specialist, you go to the filler specialist, you go to, you're not going to a one-stop shop.
My former dermatologist who retired, Dr. Heidi Waldorf, said, like I was asking her about upper eyelids, and she said, when it's time for a bluff, guys, bluff, I would tell you, and like I'll have the people, and because she doesn't want to do it, and I just talked to Dr. Deval Bonasali about something, and I was interviewing him, and he said, listen, if you give someone a credit card in New York City, they're going to swipe it. And he's like, what? I was like, genius. What you want is the doctor that you go to that says no. So like her being like, sure, you could come in and say, I don't like my upper eyelids, and maybe she could do like some old therapy on a low dose to like tighten the collagen. But a good doctor will be like, oh, this is the bluff person. You should go to them for that. That's what they specialize in. And I'm not going to charge you or do a procedure with you now. And so as to your point, these people have to go to several different, you might stop in Dubai for a little nose work or the cheek or whatever, a little jaw lift. I don't know what you got done there.
What I think is so interesting about this conversation we're having between these two kind of competing stories is that it's flipped, right? It used to be that the politicians wanted to be completely like, they didn't want to look like they had anything done. And now they do want to look like they've had stuff done. And the celebrities are the ones that want to look like they've had nothing done.
Right. And the Real Housewives are taking out their filler and et cetera.
Right. Oh. It's so fascinating to me.
It is. Guys, I'm sorry if this feels like plastic surgery hour. The other story we wanted to talk to you before, we're going to do a sniff test, by the way, a fun experiment at Fat Mascara. Like we're going to live test a fragrance we both got. But there's briefly, just because a couple people have asked me about it, because a story I did about other uses, speaking of undetectable plastic surgery, other uses of cosmetic fillers, not on your face, but down there. So I did a story for Allure 2 weeks ago now on labia puffs.
I'm obsessed with this story. I've read it like 4 times, I have to say. I love this story. Yeah, it's so good.
I didn't even know what a labia puff, I had never heard that term before Allure was like, have you heard this term? And of course, I was immediately like, oh yeah, totally, I can write about that. It's like furiously Googling, what's a labia puff?
Totally, always.
But so basically, it's more a labia majora puff, which is people using cosmetic filler, the doctors, to fill the outer labia, which are hair covered on some people, but if you get waxed, there's no hair there. The outer lips, if you will, but they're not lips, they're like that hold in the inner lips, so that they're more full. And everybody's like, wait, what? I thought people wanted smaller looking vulvas, but this is fuller. And I guess it's mostly the women I talked to, because I talked to 3 people that have gotten this done. And it was because they said that their outer labia majora, had aged and like deflated. So the skin was just sort of like loose.
That's so interesting. I mean, my biggest question for you when it comes to this is, why would you do a labia puff versus a labiaplasty?
Yes. And so the doctors told me that it was for the people who didn't have so much excess skin that it would need to be tightened in that way. It was more just like a raisin that needs to be turned into a plum, like not a deflated balloon that needs to blown back up. Is that a decent analogy? So it's a small percentage of people where this is the more beneficial choice for them should they want an aesthetic change, which we can, of course, get into like, do you even need to change what that looks like? My whole point in the story was, this is because nobody has hair down there anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, if we all had hair, nobody would care.
No, it's true. I'm going to admit something to you right now and to all of our listeners. I don't really even know what a vagina with a labia looks like because I'm a gay man.
I didn't want to call you out, but I was like, you're interested in this story, but I feel like you've not spent a lot of time with vulvas. Vulvas being the outer genitalia, vagina being the inner part. So technically you don't really see the vagina. So you're not alone in that.
I don't know if I've ever seen one in real life, but I'm a fan of what...
You don't know. I feel like you'd remember, Karen. when you came out of one, that's the time you saw one.
Yeah, that's the one time. But listen, if that's what people want to do, I think it's a really interesting application of filler. I think that we're seeing a lot of really interesting ways that people can use filler. I mean,
in a way, you're the perfect person to talk about or report on this because you can bring zero judgment, which was hard to do as a woman as I was writing this. I'm just going to report the story, and this is what it does. And clearly, there's people that want this. But there is a XY version of this, correct?
Oh, yeah. There is. And that's why I think it's so fascinating is because, like, both things are kind of happening at the same time. So in the men's space, penile filler is becoming really, really trendy, really big. I mean, it's a very similar idea. You're using hyaluronic acid filler to expand. It's all about girth, right? So you're not actually adding length. You can't add length. Okay. But you're kind of filling it out so it's girthier. You can do it in both the head and the shaft. And I'm actually working on a story about this right now. I haven't reported on it quite a lot yet. There have been other stories written about this trend. But what's fascinating is I feel like for men, I've been reading a lot of surveys about dissatisfaction of penis size. And I think that there's this idea of like bigger is always better. But depending on the surveys, anywhere from 14% to 60% of men are dissatisfied with their size. But women prefer girth to length, overwhelmingly.
Okay, that's assuming the men who are unhappy are having sex or being with women, by the way.
Sure.
Which, because I just heard about somebody who spent time with a filled penis.
Uh-huh. What was that like?
And he said, this is such a funny story. It was Halloween, and he saw this guy on stilts. So you can imagine stilts like you walk around like a character,
stilts.
like dressed up as a character in like a leotard and stilts.
I thought you were going to say like stilts is some new dating app.
Are you on stilts yet? Swipe left. Swipe right. No. So what is at eye level when another person, like a circus character, is on stilts? Their penis. So he was in like tightish clothing, and this guy was like, clearly something was going on there because he could see through the clothing that he had. His penis was big, even though it was flaccid. And he's just like, what's up with this? So he got the guy in conversation. They ended up going back to a hotel room so he could show him that he had indeed had hyaluronic acid fillers put into his penis.
Wow.
Feel free, by the way, I'm going to put an E on this episode for explicit. I don't think this is explicit. We're just talking about anatomy, but I'm now going to talk about it, aroused anatomy just for a moment if you want to fast forward. So when his penis got hard is when, though, it looked different. He said, flaccid, it looked cool. Like it had like this girth and it was like fine, whatever. When it got hard, it was like lumpy around it. It wasn't an even toned because the blood flow that goes in is not the same every time with every erection. And so the filler, though, stays sort of in the same place. So he said it was interesting looking, not bad, but like it definitely wasn't smooth and like uniformly enlarged.
Yeah, I think there's some interesting points there because I think one of the reasons that people are so excited about penile filler, is that notoriously penis augmentation has not been possible very well, right? I heard what was the word someone used in this quote? It was basically like penises are very like active organs.
Yeah. Like as I was just talking about. Yeah.
There's like, they grow they're growing like shrink constantly. There's a lot of blood flow. There's
hanging to the left today, hanging to the right.
Totally. That's why there's like things like implants notoriously don't work, right? Because it's like there's too much going on. So filler, it's apparently a very, very safe option. And because it's temporary, it's hyaluronic acid based. I mean, I know one injector
which means it could be reversed with
Yeah, there's one guy who I know mixes with I don't know what kind, but a calcium-based filler. So it adds a little bit of heft, but it's not like a Bella fill, which is a permanent filler, right? Like it's not silicone, whatever. But also like in my research of what I've been for this story, it's like a lot of times it's still a fairly new procedure. So a lot of these like top tier providers that are doing the expert level filler spend a lot of time correcting bad work.
But then, oh God, I'm sorry. I might take this out of the podcast, but like, do you have to get aroused to get the filler so they can see where it's settling once do you know what I'm saying?
That is a great question and I will be sure to answer that in the story that I write because I'm actually going to do it for my story. I've decided. Again, I will try pretty much everything, guys. So
okay, it is reversible. It doesn't last forever.
I have several friends that have done it too.
I'm sure we're going to get people who are like, don't talk about that on the podcast. But honestly, I feel like this is fascinating and I want to know what happens.
I also think that like I'm a big believer in how can I actually write about something truthfully and not just report on it the way that other people, because I don't want my story to be like the same as other people's, right? And I haven't read a lot of stories that have a first person perspective. So I want to bring that. And I'm also just curious. I mean, I'm not dissatisfied with myself, but
let's see what happens.
Why not try it?
My editors, this is so funny because my editors at Allure kept asking, like, can you put in more about the downsides of using filler in the genitalia and what could go wrong and all of that? And like every expert I talked to, there just weren't that many. This is not surgery. So this isn't like a vagioplasty or a labiaplasty. There's no cutting. There's no anesthesia. There weren't that many side effects because, to your point, hyaluronic acid has been well studied in the body for years and it is reversible. And it just like, as long as you have someone who knows how and where to inject, the thing that about the penis is crazy is all that blood flow.
Yeah. Apparently there's a massage technique you have to do for 2 weeks after.
Stop it right now. Stop it right now. Okay, we're going to end this conversation because I have too many questions. I'm going to take us way off topic.
To that point, though, I mean, I read this cool overview of penile filler in the like American Urological Association's journal. And this person was basically talking about, the changing attitudes from a provider standpoint. It used to be, even a couple years ago, providers were like, that's not good. Now they're like, great, let's try it. And because part of that is they have found very few side effects. There are a few, like, from a human error standpoint, like the bumps, things like that.
Yeah.
But in terms of long-term health and safety effects on both sides, there aren't really that many. I mean, they're still studying them. But I think it's really, from a male and female point of view, filler seems to be a really good option for anyone that wants to
Here you go, filler salespeople. Remember, I was like, filler sales are down for the face. That's because everybody's putting it below the belt.
Everyone's going below the belt.
The alternative headline I had, they didn't choose it. Allure was like, the filler is migrating south. And they were like, but it's kind of true. Anyway, okay, wrapping up our plastic surgery conversation, there is one last news item that we wanted to talk about, which is Harry's new fragrance. So Harry's is a subscription shaving company, right?
Yeah, well, now they're everywhere. I mean, they started as a subscription. They were kind of the first to, quote unquote, disrupt the shaving category. Right. Now they're like in Target.
So Harry's has an existing fragrance called Kin. It's like a floral musk. But the price is the thing that's a story for me partially here because they're going into a really luxury space with this new fragrance. The fragrance that's existing right now is, it's usually like $40, but it's actually on sale right now for $25. It's called Kin. You've smelled this, right, Garrett? The original. I guess I can't even call it original, but the fragrance that they have right now, Kin.
The first.
It's nice. I feel like if you were already shopping at Harry's, you'd like it, but you might not think of Harry's for fragrance.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I feel like really set Harry's apart is their fragrances in general. They're really good fragrances, and their body washes all of that stuff. So I know that they have a lot of fans just of the way that their products smell already.
Yeah. So it makes sense for them, to me, to expand into fragrance. But the way they did it was interesting because this new scent, which is called Tamalpais, how do you say that? My husband, there's a song that he listens to that it's a place in California.
Tamalpais?
Tamalpais. Guys, it's a California. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Anyway, it is with the artist Matt McCormick. And this is the thing, they only made 250 of these. Do you know that?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I mean, they did a limited edition with him last year that was more of like a dop kit.
Okay.
And I like that they're letting him be involved in product development now. I wonder how much of this idea came from him and how much came from them. In terms of like the fine fragrance idea.
So just to have some fun, Garrett and I are one of the 250 people that get to try Harry's Tamalpais, which is their new fragrance with Matt McCormick. It's like, I don't know, this is new for us. We're doing like a live sniff test.
I love it.
You got yours, right?
It comes in this beautiful box.
Okay, right. So the price on this is a much more luxury price point. This isn't Harry's that's giving you a deal on shaving. It's $250. But this box, I am going to keep jewelry in this. This is
totally, it's beautiful.
Okay, so we haven't smelled it yet, but we're both opening for the first time.
It's a full-on. Oh,
all right, you like the heft. I hear you saying.
Yes, I like the heft of it. It's wood. It's beautiful.
What is this that came with it? Did you get this card?
Yeah, I think I feel like you can use it as a blotter.
Or am I meant to sit this on here like a coaster?
I think it's more just like a cute little, it kind of explains what it is.
Okay, Tamalpais is inspired by growing up in the redwoods of Northern California and the invigorating power of the forest. And I like that the cap has the same sort of wooden texture as the box.
Yeah. And it has this, it's cool. I mean, it's a nice bottle. It's big. It's a lot.
All right. Well, you're the XY here. So I feel like you have to do the first. We're going to spray, and I want to see what this is your first impression.
I like it. There's a fresh kind of top, but there's it's smoky. I mean, I know there's oud in there for sure.
Oh, we are on the frontier. We are having a campfire, and there is a sexy cowboy next to us. And he doesn't smell sweaty. He smells like the fields. He smells like...
he's just come in from like riding through like a forest.
Something minty too. Like he's got good mouthwash, I'll tell you that.
Oh, totally. He's clean.
But he's by
hygiene.
A smoky fire.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Someone else built it, and then he's just enjoying it.
He's a quiet luxury cowboy.
Yeah. This is like a glamping. We're definitely glamping in like Big Sur right now.
Because it doesn't have, and this isn't a bad note, but it doesn't have that sweaty, like horse kind of barnyardy funk of a leather. The smoke in it for me is very much a fire that's died down and like the wood embers and a cool, crisp nighttime breeze. Like this is like a night for me. I'm not getting dawn. I'm getting past like clear night with stars kind of for this fire for me.
It's definitely not smoke forward. The smoke kind of brings out the spice and the wood, I feel.
Yeah.
I put it on my other
Matt
list,
McCormick.
too, so I like that, I'm not a fan of overly citrusy fresh notes. I think that it can make things feel a little like middle of the road. And so for a fine fragrance, I like that they have that kind of burst of freshness but it goes away really fast.
Yeah, but not in a early aughts Italian fashion label fragrance way.
Yeah, it's not super citrusy. It's not aquatic. It just has this like kind of zing at first, but then it brings out the spices and I don't remember what woods are in here, but I mean, the oud definitely comes through, but it's not overpowering. I feel like a lot of oud fragrances for men really lead on the oud, and you smell it smells beautiful.
If you hadn't told me oud, I wouldn't have smelled it. I would have just said like something smoky,
I'm getting
woody.
more oud as it dries down.
That's true, too. We just sprayed it for the first time. And then the bottle, compared to the Kin bottle, this is their existing fragrance, and then this is the one that is the limited edition. Clearly, like a luxury play here. And it's etched with the artwork of the Maybe that's the sexy cowboy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. For sure. I like it. I mean, I would pay $250 for this. I mean, it's a limited edition.
But it has us talking about Harry's and how they're like entering. They're definitely going to be doing more fragrance. I can tell already. I know it for sure.
For sure. I mean, I feel like that's a really missing piece of their whole puzzle I'm surprised that they've waited this long to do fragrance, frankly, because their fragrances are really good and they work really hard on them and they always have. And so to have a wearable and a fine fragrance at that, I think is really nice.
Tell me this as a guy, when you shave, if you're using a scented shaving product, does it stick around on your face and then your cologne has to sort of play well with the scent of what your shaving product was?
It can, yeah. I mean, okay. I think that there's...
Do you like them to be matchy-matchy? Is it like scent layering like that or no?
No, I feel like typically, I feel the shaving products that really have a lingering scent tend to be like beard products, like beard oils, beard balms. Okay. Something on your skin is not going to, like an aftershave, I mean, it's not going to last very long.
Yeah. Well, this is, if you want to check it out, I assume there's a couple of the 250 left. Harry's Tamalpais. I can't say that word, but it's available now. We'll link in the notes and everything. And just thanks for sticking with us through all of our plastic surgery talk. Let's go raise some wands, okay? Okay, it's time to raise a wand. I just want to point out that off the air, we just had another half-hour conversation about penis stuff.
Yeah, we did. We should have recorded it, but it went to some places.
There's a surgeon. She's a urologist. She does both types of surgery that we were talking about. Maybe we do something with her and we just do it as an extra drop, like a bonus drop for people who don't want to partake. But it's a fascinating topic. However, let's raise wands. And now I'm getting the giggles about raising a wand because that's sounding like...
Oh, my God. Our minds are in the gutter today.
It's not even gutter because I really do think we're both approaching this from a very logical, reporter's kind of viewpoint.
Totally.
But anyway.
No judgment.
Okay. Do we think our listener Micah loves that this is what the episode she's going to be featured on? Happy holidays, everybody. Raise a wand. We have been asking people for their homework to... Well, I was asking them, what's my candle? What's my vibe this holiday? So people have been calling in 646-481-8182. Let's listen in. This is Micah.
Hi, team. This is Micah from Durham, North Carolina. Last week when Jen and Julie were talking about holiday candles, I immediately thought Holiday from Nest. It's so good. But since Julie already recommended that one, I have another recommendation. Boy Smells is my personal favorite candle brand of all time. And they have a holiday collection, including Incensorial. And they have had this in past years, and I've had it before, and it is so good. I just ordered another one. It is spicy and woody. It has some incense, and then it's all kind of wrapped up with orange peel. So it's a little bit different from your average holiday candle, but that's what I really like because it's not too gourmand. It's not really gourmand at all. And it's not a pine crazy tree note either. And then a new one that they have this year is called Holiday Smells, and I'm trying that one out for myself for the first time this year. It does have vanilla in it, so I'm a little worried about that, but it also has cardamom and jasmine petals, and jasmine is one of my favorites. So I'm super excited to try that one. If you guys do end up trying Boy Smells or one of these candles, please talk about it and let me know what you think. Have a good holiday season. Bye.
Micah, you're the best. First of all, please talk about it and let us know what you think. Why do we have to review it? We don't even have to call it in because you just did the perfect beauty editor, grooming editor's review of the Boy Smells holiday candles. Enough so that, I want one.
Yeah.
The one with the oranginess to it that's not too gourmand and not too woodsy. That sounds like exactly what I was looking for. But I'm curious, Garrett, because you haven't been on the show in a couple weeks. Do you have a recommendation for us?
I love a holiday candle. I have a couple different ideas here. So I know you're not into super wood pine, but I tend to go more towards that world during the holidays because I also like ones that I can burn after the holidays, that don't feel too literal holiday.
Okay.
And Diptyque used to do a whole set of votives that were different pine scents that they had throughout the years, which was an amazing set. I don't know if they make it anymore. They always do a really good kind of pine candle. My ultimate favorite is way too expensive for me, but it's by Trudon, and it's called Fur, and I love it because it's a pine, but it has like a smoky incense quality to it, and it's the most beautiful pine scent I've ever had in my life.
Guys, if you find $125 on the sidewalk and are able to pick it up, I'm going to tell you, that's found money. You didn't have that money. So it's already gone. So what you're going to spend it on is a Cire Trudon candle. My favorite candle of all time is from that brand, the Abd el Kader. It's like a Moroccan mint. It smells.
Oh my God. It's the best.
So
this is
good.
The most iconic candle brand in the entire world. They made the candles for Marie Antoinette.
Like the literal one, not the Sofia Coppola one.
Like the actual human that lived. Yes.
They've been around since then. I did not know that, but
it's incredible.
Now
like that was their whole thing. Is like that's how they started. Was they were her official royal candle makers.
Sometimes I don't think the price point is worthy of the product. This is one product. I'm just saying. I don't think I would spend it, but like it is worth.
If you have like a really rich relative or really rich friend, ask for it for the holidays.
Ask your rich friend.
It's so worth it. I mean, I love it so much. On the flip side of that, because I know most people are not going to go out and spend this much money, I'm really into the new Royal Pine candle from that brand Vacation.
Oh, okay.
So they launched a holiday candle this year that's called Royal Pine. It's very pine, but it's not like a chemically kind of fake pine. It has a sweetness to it. I would not say gourmand, but it definitely like makes the pine less sharp. So when you light it, it has this very beautiful kind of warmth to it. And I feel like when you have a pine candle, there's usually not a lot of warmth.
Same with eucalyptus. I love the smell, but it can get very astringent and cold if it isn't balanced with something.
Totally. And this, I don't know, I think it's like straight up pine, but whatever they did to it, our friend Carlos Hubert is like a genius. Whatever they did, I love it. I literally blew through it in like a week. I loved it so much, this candle.
Fur. It's called Royal Pine. Sorry, Royal Pine.
Vacation.
Okay.
So that's my new one for this season that I'm obsessed with.
I'm also curious because Bath and Body Works, last week they had this sale. It was like so good on the candles. But if anybody out there is a Bath and Body Works fan, they have so many holiday candles. So like I don't know which one to get. And even the White Barn collection. So call in if you have a favorite. Bath and Body Works always does a good holiday candle.
They do.
Or if there's like a Yankee candle.
I get very overwhelmed by the Bath & Body Works selection as well. So I would love to know, for people that are experts.
I get indecision paralysis. I know there's a certain, like if there's 4, then it makes you want to buy more because you have a choice and it's fun. Like at the ice cream store or whatever, there's psychology behind this. If there's 24, I am like shut down.
Totally.
I just like, Anyway, all right. Let's raise, that wasn't your official raise a wand, but what are you raising a wand to officially?
So my official raise the wand is more of a concept. I don't know. Have you been to this restaurant here in New York called Cocoduck?
No.
So it's a newish restaurant. It's been really popular for maybe a year. It's a Korean restaurant. I won't go into what the food is delicious. But one of the things that I noticed right away when I went is that when you first walk in, even before you get to the hostess stand, there's like a sink. And above the sink, there's like 15 bottles of hand soap. And so you get to choose, and they're like beautiful. They're like expensive hand soaps. It's like this cute little like, oh my God, I'm going to choose the Diptyque or whatever, you know.
Are they locked down?
No. They're very trusting. But it was such a fun idea. I recreated it at home.
Oh my gosh, a hand soap bar.
I have like a little hand soap bar in my kitchen. I only have 5 right now. I don't have 15. But I love this idea because you can obviously mix and match. You can do it on your own.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to go expensive hand soap. I have a range myself. And I just love it because like it's also, I am congested. It's hand washing season right now. We all got to be careful of germs. Yes. And it just adds something cool because I'm like, oh, I'm feeling a little neroli today. So I'll like use my neroli one and then like
why should for the 3 months have the same scent until it runs out. Like, you want choice.
And I was thinking, like, you know, if you're into hosting for the holidays, it's a really cool thing to put in, like, your powder room or whatever. If you, like, have guests over.
Oh, that's cute.
It's just, like, a fun, it makes me really happy when I go to wash my hands because I feel like I can, like, customize the scent experience. I don't have to always stick with the same hand soap.
It's like when you go to the coffee bar and they have all the syrups all lined up. And it's like, which syrup squirt do you want? And now it's like, so just one question about the restaurants. Was it from all different brands?
Yes.
Oh, that's even more fun. I don't know if visually I like the clutter.
I know. Like that is the one thing. You have to have the space to make it look beautiful. I mean, mine are just kind of clustered around my kitchen sink, which has a bunch of other stuff around it. But the idea is really fun. I mean, I have like the Aesop one with like the scrub in it. So if I want the scrub, I have one that's like a really high end, that brand Penhaligon's. That's like a leathery. Oh,
Penhaligon's has
spicy,
such good scents.
Yeah, and like I have the home court one, the neroli leaf, which I love.
Oh, these are good.
Yeah, it's like it's a fun little to mix it up, and I think it's really it's like been making me really happy as I go to wash my hands like 5 million times.
I want to like go to a hospital and set up a hand. I know they have to use like antiseptic soap, but I want to set one up for like the nurses at the station.
That's a good idea.
So they can. Wouldn't that be fun? So they can all, when they're washing, like have good. But probably our person that called in last week, who was a sterile tech at the hospital, is going to tell me that's totally not feasible or doable. So maybe I won't do this. But wouldn't that be fun?
Maybe for when they're all leaving to go home, like their last hand wash of the day.
Oh, in my head, I've already like set it up visually. Then I'm going to get one of those plastic tiers Jess was talking about, so you can see the spices behind the spices. But that way, it'll be like more compact, and I'll have 3 in the back row and 3 in the front row.
Perfect.
I'm going to second your Razor Wand. I'm also sick of my voice because like I did a lot of talking about penises. So I'm just going to second your Razor Wand and go get my beauty sleep. What do you say?
Sounds great to me. I'm ready for some beauty sleep myself.
All right, let's get our beauty sleep. We'll see you on Friday.
We hope you enjoyed the show.
It's your reviews and feedback that help us make the podcast even better. Head over to iTunes to rate and review us, or email your thoughts to info@fatmascara.com.
We also want to answer your beauty questions and hear what products you love. To share a Razor Wand product review or to ask a beauty question, email us at info@fatmascara.
If you send it as a voice memo file, we can even share your voice on the podcast. You can also do that by leaving us a voice message. Our phone number in the United States is 646-481-8182.
Thanks so much for listening.